The security footage was crystal clear. At exactly 5:47 in the morning, Marcus Chen, the night janitor with the tired eyes and perpetually hunched shoulders, walked deliberately toward the CEO's reserved parking spot, pulled something from his jacket pocket, and drove it into all four tires of the gleaming black Mercedes. Then he simply stood there waiting as if he wanted to be caught, as if he needed to be caught. Nobody could understand why a man who had worked silently and diligently at Hartwell Industries for 3 years would suddenly commit an act of vandalism that would certainly cost him his job, possibly his freedom, and definitely any chance of providing for his 7-year-old daughter. But what the cameras didn't show, what nobody knew yet, was that this wasn't an act of anger or desperation. This was an act of love so profound, so desperately calculated, that it would shake everyone who heard the truth to their very core. If you believe in the power of kindness, in second chances, and in the strength of the human spirit, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel. Sometimes the most beautiful stories come from the darkest moments. Marcus had been awake for 23 hours straight when he made his decision. His shift at Hartwell Industries started at midnight and ended at 8 in the morning, cleaning the sprawling corporate offices of one of the city's most successful tech companies. But his day didn't start at midnight. It started at 3 in the afternoon when he picked up his daughter Lily from school, took her to her after-school program, then rushed to his second job washing dishes at a downtown restaurant from 5 to 11. He would grab whatever leftover food the chef would give him, wrap it carefully for Lily's lunch the next day, and drive his sputtering 15-year-old Honda to Hartwell Industries. Every single day, every single night. For 3 years, the CEO, Catherine Hartwell, was a woman Marcus had only seen from a distance. She was always immaculately dressed, always moving with purpose, always surrounded by assistants with tablets and urgent messages. She had built her company from nothing, starting in her garage 12 years ago and turning it into a $100 million enterprise. Everyone respected her. Everyone feared her a little too. She had a reputation for being brilliant but cold, strategic but distant. She arrived at exactly 7:30 every morning, parked in her reserved spot, and disappeared into the executive elevator before most employees even arrived. Marcus had cleaned her office countless times, always careful not to disturb the neat stacks of papers. The family photos that showed a younger version of Catherine with people who looked happy, people who were probably no longer in her life. But Marcus knew something about Catherine Hartwell that nobody else knew. Something he had discovered completely by accident 3 weeks earlier while emptying the trash in the executive bathroom. He had found a crumpled piece of paper torn from a medical notepad with words that made his blood run cold. Words about stage 4 pancreatic cancer. Words about declining treatment. Words about 6 months, maybe less. And at the bottom, in Catherine's own handwriting, a single sentence that had haunted Marcus every day since. "I won't die slowly in a hospital. I'll work until I can't. Then I'll end it on my own terms." Marcus had carefully smoothed out that paper, read it 3 more times to make sure he understood, then carefully folded it and placed it in his locker. He told himself it wasn't his business. He was just the janitor. What could he possibly do? But then he thought about Lily, about how desperately he fought every single day to stay alive for her, to stay present in her life, even when exhaustion made his bones ache and his vision blur. He thought about the accident 2 years ago that had taken his wife, Sarah, how he had screamed at the paramedics to save her, how he would have traded places with her in an instant. He thought about the morning he had to tell Lily that Mommy wasn't coming home, how his daughter's face had crumpled, how she had whispered, "But who will take care of us, Daddy?" And he realized that Catherine Hartwell had nobody asking her that question, nobody fighting for her, nobody slashing her tires to make her miss a meeting she thought was more important than her life. The plan had formed slowly in Marcus's exhausted mind over the following weeks. He learned that Catherine had a crucial board meeting scheduled for 8 o'clock on Tuesday morning, a meeting where she would present the quarterly results and strategic vision for the coming year. She had been working 16-hour days preparing for it, her office light blazing long after everyone else had gone home. Marcus had watched her through the glass walls, seen her rubbing her side where the pain must have been unbearable, seen her swallowing pills she thought nobody noticed. She was dying, and she was spending her final months in board meetings and strategy sessions, surrounded by people who saw her as a leader, but not as a human being who deserved to fight for her life. So Marcus made his choice. He would slash her tires. He would make her miss the meeting. And when security came, when the police arrived, when everyone demanded to know why, he would tell them the truth. He would force Catherine Hartwell to confront what she was doing to herself. He would make her late, make her angry, make her stop for just one moment and ask herself if this was really how she wanted to spend her remaining days. It was a desperate plan, probably a stupid plan, but it was the only plan Marcus could think of, because he knew what it meant to fight for life, to fight for the people you loved, and he couldn't stand by and watch someone give up without at least trying to shake them awake. At 5:47 in the morning, Marcus walked to that Mercedes, pulled out the knife he used to open boxes in the supply room, and punctured all 4 tires. The hissing sound seemed incredibly loud in the empty parking garage. His hands were shaking. His heart was pounding so hard he thought it might burst. But he didn't run. He just stood there and waited. Catherine Hartwell arrived at 7:28, 2 minutes early as always. Marcus watched from his position near the security desk as she stepped out of the Uber she had been forced to call, her face tight with fury and confusion. Security had already reviewed the footage. The police were on their way, and Marcus was sitting in the security office, calm and quiet, waiting to tell his story. When Catherine stormed into the security office, demanding to know who had vandalized her car and why she hadn't been immediately notified, she stopped short when she saw Marcus, the night janitor, the quiet man who always nodded politely when they passed in the hallways. Her face went from red with anger to pale with confusion. "You?" she said, her voice sharp. "You did this? Why would you? What possible reason?" Marcus stood up slowly, and from his jacket pocket, he pulled out the carefully folded piece of paper. Catherine's face went even paler as she recognized it. She reached out as if to snatch it away, but Marcus held it carefully, reverently, like it was something precious. "I found this 3 weeks ago," Marcus said quietly, his voice steady despite his exhaustion and fear, "and I've been trying to figure out what to do about it ever since. I'm just a janitor, ma'am. I clean your offices and empty your trash and watch you work yourself to death every single night. And I know it's not my place. I know I'm going to lose my job and probably go to jail. But I couldn't let you spend your last months like this. I couldn't let you die in a board meeting when you should be fighting, when you should be with people who love you, when you should be doing everything possible to stay alive." The security guards were standing awkwardly by the door. The police radio crackled. Catherine Hartwell stood absolutely frozen, staring at this janitor who had just blown up her morning, her meeting, possibly her entire company's future, because he cared whether she lived or died. "I lost my wife 2 years ago," Marcus continued, and his voice finally cracked. "And every single day since then I've fought to stay alive for my daughter. 2 jobs, no sleep, eating leftovers, driving a car that barely runs. But I do it because she needs me, because life is precious, because giving up isn't an option when people need you. And I saw that note, ma'am, and I saw you giving up, and I just thought, somebody needs to fight for you, even if it's just the janitor, even if it costs me everything." Catherine's hand had moved to her side, to the place where the cancer was eating her alive. Tears were streaming down her face, and she didn't seem to notice or care. Around them, the security guards had gone silent. One of them was wiping his own eyes. "I have a meeting," Catherine whispered, but there was no conviction in her voice anymore. "You have a life," Marcus said gently. "Or you could, if you'd fight for it." The police arrived. The board members called frantically, wondering where their CEO was. The meeting was delayed, then postponed, then eventually canceled. And Catherine Hartwell, the woman who had built an empire through sheer determination and strategic brilliance, sat in that security office with a janitor who had slashed her tires out of love and cried like she hadn't cried in years. If this story has touched your heart, if you believe that sometimes the smallest gestures can save a life, please let us know in the comments. Share this video with someone who might need this reminder today. Your engagement helps us continue telling stories that matter. Marcus was not arrested. Catherine Hartwell personally told the police she would not be pressing charges, that there had been a misunderstanding, that this was a company matter they would handle internally. But it wasn't a company matter. It was a life matter. And after everyone else had left, after the parking garage had filled with employees who would never know how close they came to losing their CEO, Catherine asked Marcus to stay. "Why would you risk everything?" she asked him. "You don't even know me." Before we finish this story, please take a moment to comment below and tell us about a time someone showed you unexpected kindness. Your story might inspire someone else today. Marcus smiled tiredly. "I know what it means to have someone worth living for. I thought maybe if I made you late, if I forced you to stop for just one moment, you might remember that you're worth living for too, even if you've forgotten. Even if everyone around you has forgotten to remind you." Catherine Hartwell did seek treatment. She fought her cancer with the same fierce determination she had built her company with. And Marcus Chen was promoted to facilities manager with regular hours, benefits, and a salary that meant he could finally be home for dinner with Lily every night. But more than that, Catherine became part of their lives. She became the person who showed up at Lily's school plays, who remembered birthdays, who proved that sometimes the people who save us are the ones we least expect, and sometimes we save each other. The story of the janitor who slashed the CEO's tires spread through Hartwell Industries and beyond. But the real story, the true story, was about how one act of desperate courage reminded a dying woman that her life was worth fighting for, and in doing so, reminded everyone that no act of kindness is ever wasted, no matter how strange or small or impossible it might seem, because sometimes love looks like slashed tires and missed meetings and a tired janitor who couldn't bear to watch someone give up. Sometimes love looks like refusing to let someone die alone in a board meeting when they could be fighting, living, and finally understanding that they matter to someone, that they matter to the world, that their life, like every life, is infinitely precious and worth every desperate, courageous act it takes to save it.